Metaintro does not give financial advice. Information provided by Metaintro is intended to be used and must be used for informational purposes only. Always do your own research on the companies that you apply to and the opportunities that you invest in.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Recruiting-ish podcast. It's Tuesday, and we're here talking all things hiring in Web3. My name's Alex. I'm your crypto recruiter. I'm here with Brad from the Metaintro team. Say what's up, Brad.
What's going on, everyone?
Also got a special guest coming from the Web3 and digital assets hiring space. We were talking before the show. This is someone that I have crossed paths with many of times on LinkedIn and Twitter. We run in similar circles and have a ton of mutual connections. So when I saw his name pop up, I was super excited to have him on the pod and talk with him. His name's Remington. He's the partnerships lead at Proof of Talent. Welcome to the show, man. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, man, it's finally great to connect. No better place to do it than a podcast. Super excited to dive into everything recruiting and just kind of share the wisdom I've learned along the way.
For sure. Well, I guess to start, talk to us about how you ended up in the Web3 recruiting space. What's kind of your journey until now?
Yeah, it's funny. I have a really close friend of mine. He goes by Sweetman Dottie, and he's a blockchain developer in the space. He introduced Web3 to me actually back in December 2020. He was talking to me about how Blau and Snoop Dogg were putting their music on chain with NFTs. And I kind of blew him off for a couple of years. And he had visited me back in November 2022 and kind of explained like the power of decentralization, blockchain ownership, and what this whole technological revolution is going to do for our world. And that's why I really went down that rabbit hole. And I've always been someone that's passionate about people, sales, business development. And that's why I joined the recruitment space. And it was with an agency called Hammond Williams. It was a global agency. And they gave me the opportunity to build out the Web3 vertical from scratch. And so very quickly, I started making a name for myself, bringing on multiple clients in the ecosystem to our agency, and started immersing myself in different events in San Diego and my local community, going to meetups in other cities. And then from there, most recently joined Proof of Talent. I've now been with the team for about a couple months. It's led by Rob Payon, also known Crypto Bobby. And so we've been around in the Web3 crypto recruiting space since 2019. So 4 years now, which has been quite some time. And I lead partnerships here. So basically primarily focused on bringing on new accounts, maintaining those relationships. We also host different events, different private dinners. We do a podcast as well, and just a lot of content creation. So yeah, it's been a hell of a ride in such a short period of time. I've made some incredible relationships and friendships, and really excited for the future of just what recruitment looks like for the Web3 space.
Do you DJ the events as well?
I did see that.
I do DJ all Web3
I literally just
events.
made that up. I swear, so that's just a lucky guess. I don't know. You look like you got some DJ type.
Yeah. It's a good guess. Yeah, I've been DJing in the Web3 space since July of last year. It started out with just local communities in San Diego. So I've done stuff with like Disco XYZ when they had their offsite here. I've done stuff at Art Basel for 2 communities, Crypto Tech Women, 90s Babes, and then NFT LA most recently. Miguel has his own NFT community, and I ended up DJing for that. So it's been a heck of a ride on that side too.
Speaking of that,
DJing.
that's what I was actually going to go with. Tell us, because I feel like everybody has that. What was your first DJing story, into crypto? I feel like everybody kind of has that. That's usually the hook. Nobody goes in and saying, oh, hey, I'm going to build some massive protocol. You usually buy an NFT or get into meme coin or something. What's your DJing experience in Web3?
Yeah, it's a great question. Fortunately for me, man, I haven't lost a ton of money. I didn't ape in really quickly to different NFT projects. I'd probably say it's always been the community and people. And I know that's not a super degen answer, but like I've always been really drawn to just the passion and genuineness of the people in the ecosystem. And so, especially during this bear market, like that's what's kept me like super excited, just for what's ahead. Yeah, I'm fortunate for that. Like there's a lot of good projects out there. If I had the money, I'd definitely like purchase, but didn't get in at the right time. And yeah, man, just continue to expand my network. Like I've got a lot of people that believe in me, and just it's allowed me to really create a strong foundation here.
So I'm going to flip the tables and ask a question to both of you, because I think it kind of just occurred to me a little bit. So in Web 2, engineering or talent in general usually has this adversarial relationship with recruiters, if you will. It's just always, they look at them as not even just a cost of doing business, but as an adversarial gatekeeper, if you will, to some of the jobs or stuff like that. And I do think the Web3 space, especially being just a lot of positive people, a lot of good interactions and stuff like that, is that what has, made it so attractive for, skilled recruiters like yourself to land here? Or is it the technology, or is it just like people having a better outlook on, the job market in general? Because I've always said this to Lacey, why is searching for a job just so soul-sucking? Why does it legitimately doesn't have to be that? So maybe to, tie it into a question, is there pieces of Web3 that make that experience better for not only the recruiters and the job seekers?
I can jump into it first. I mean, I think going back to what I said, like everyone in this ecosystem, if you're wanting to work full time, has a passion for it. And so whether that's a recruiter or that's an engineer, I think it just makes that relationship and experience so much stronger. And I think as well too, it's a very competitive market. It's very, very competitive. And so you really have to sharpen up your skills and just level of expertise to work in the space. So it kind of puts a little bit more pressure on everyone, to find the best candidate or to like have the best skills and experience, because someone else is knocking on your heels right now to get your position.
Innovate or die.
Yeah, no, I echo that. I think it's kind of the, I don't know, you want to call it the startup grind, the excitement. Like it's just exciting, and like it's something where like I'm passionate about. So like before working full time in crypto or Web3, I was spending so much of my like daytime where I should have been like working on like, hey, listening to podcast or, looking at CoinMarketCap, seeing what's going on with the market. Now that I work in crypto, that's like part of my day to day. So it's not like wasting time or taking time away from it. It's like kind of like what Remington said, you're sharpening your skills, you're keeping, up to speed and better so that you can perform. And then I think the other cool part about recruiting in this industry versus others is the community aspect that Remington talked about is definitely there. I mean, like a prime example, I work in-house at a company, Remington works at an agency. You would think as recruiters, we're like enemies or we're competing for talent. But I just recently like had somebody in my network from Coinbase get laid off. I recommended them to the Proof of Talent team as like a great resource since I didn't have anything. And when we got on this call, Remington was like, hey, we just talked to that person, great talent, let's see what we can do. And like in Web 2, that almost never happens. And again, there's nobody wanting anything out of that. It's just like, hey, we know each other, let's get this person in a good role, like regardless of what the outcome is. So yeah, that community side is just so much stronger than any like Web 2 SaaS industry, physical product that I've seen.
How has that impacted the broader market, of jobs? Obviously, Web3 is really starting to seep into the tech market in a number of different ways. How has that affected the general, market from both of y'all's seats?
Are you talking about in terms of like the abundance of opportunities or just like?
Yeah, the abundance of opportunities, but even fragmented from a standpoint of the way roles are created, the velocity in which they move. So obviously, yes, it's a loaded question, but maybe what's your favorite way that it's changed the job market in general, being Web3 roles coming into that a Web2 dominant world that we've lived in for 15 years, where Web2 has been pretty cut and dried as to what the process is. Web3 has definitely changed that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we're still in a very immature state within the market, but because it's like there's a lot of gray space in Web3 and a lot of unknown, I think that creates a lot of excitement for people, especially at these bigger tech companies, at like Meta, Google, Microsoft, whatever it may be. I've seen so many people transition to Web3, and they're honestly some of the best candidates on the market for that, just because of the type of just experience that they've had, in the past. And so that's allowed, just Web3 in general to reach a new level of talent and skill too, which is pushing the space forward faster, because we've got these more industry specific like leaders stepping into the space. But I mean, what I think, going back to it, like, once we saw these layoffs start to happen at those bigger companies, and then you have some of these Web3 companies as well dissolving, we now see this space where it's like, holy shit, like there's so many job applicants, there's so many people looking for a job right now. And it's made things a lot challenging for anyone, in that next position.
And do you think, or I guess I should ask, like, with you guys running an agency, you're working with like a broad set of clients. Are they coming to you during this time and saying like, hey, we're open, we want Web 2, or are they saying, no, we just want those ones laid off from like Coinbase or Gemini? Like, are you seeing that they're becoming open to the broad space, or are they still stuck on like, Web 3 to Web 3 versus like Web 2 or 2.5?
That's a great question. I think it's per company, but the ones that we're working with, because they have the capital to hire right now, they're very specific with what they want, and they will take the time to get that person. And so it's a lot of niche hiring going on right now. I think the example we use a lot is like companies like Coinbase or Kraken, this time last year were maybe tripling in size, where a lot of the hiring is going towards these smaller organizations like pre-seed to Series A. And it's not, 10, 20, 30 open recs. It's more like 2 or 5. And so it's a very niche group. And although someone might be coming from, like a Reddit or a big company like a gaming company, they still need to have the crypto knowledge. The onboarding that it's going to take might cost that company too much versus hiring something with that experience already. And that's obviously based on the company and like what their company culture is like, because you have some organizations that have a lot of people that might come from Meta already and want to continue incubating that type of culture and work-life balance.
And then for like evaluating, I don't even know what you want to call it, like crypto experience, excitement. Like I find that challenging sometimes, like as a recruiter, talking with somebody, right? Like when we're networking or when we're talking, shop about stuff going on in the industry, I feel like you can read it, but I don't know. There's some people that I talk to where I'm like, they could be just totally regurgitating stuff they see on a YouTube video or podcast, or they could be like a blockchain expert. Like, as you're talking to candidates, I guess, what do you see? And then do you have any recommendations on how maybe, if you're not leveled up in that area, like what people can be doing or the resources they can use to get to that level?
Yeah. When I'm working with a hiring manager, it's really all comes down to what you've built, right? You can talk about anything in the blockchain crypto space and the things that you understand. But what we really want to see is, how have you interacted on chain? What different products have you worked on? Have you scaled those products? Whether you're in marketing or BD or, worked with other big names in the ecosystem. So I think that part is super important that people miss. Is it's like, it's great to understand the space, but what are you doing in the space? What value have you created?
That's funny.
Double thumbs up on that one. It's the first thing I look at. It's legitimately like, I don't even need to see your resume anymore from a technical standpoint, and I know we're having a more technical conversation. Not only send me your GitHub, but because Web3 is so open, I want to see it live. I don't like the excuse of days past of, oh, it's behind private repos in Web3. To me, it does not work anymore. I want, and fine, maybe even give me the product, give me the website. And then the excuse potentially could be, oh, there hasn't been opportunities. Trip and fall into a Telegram, and there's a crypto project that will gladly let you do legitimately whatever you want. And we're not talking about a lot of time. We're talking about, it could be a weekend project. And to be honest with you, if you can walk me through what you did in that weekend project, how you took on the problem, how you approached it, how you thought through what to build, how you interacted with the community, that's enough for me. And there's so many opportunities. There's so many problems, if you will, in Web3 that you're exactly right. What have you built? What have you built for me lately? That's the slogan.
There's really no excuse. Like, I know it sounds harsh, but like, there's no excuse for it at this point. Like, if you really want to work in the space that bad, you're going to do whatever it takes to do that. And especially if you're like a developer, right? Here in San Diego, we have a community called ETHSD. And so we did a partnership with Alchemy University. They had their blockchain boot camp. First time rolling it out in person. There are so many different organizations doing those type of programs that have a direct track to a full-time position. So it's like just doing your research and actually taking the time. Like, you might make mistakes. Like, I think most of us all are in Web3 because no one has it figured out, but it's the fact that you're trying. You know, that's what companies want to see. And if you can continue to do that, you'll start to see results and potentially land an opportunity. So
it reminds me of the early days in the React Angular frameworks, which were very like different because we were all building, you know, apps with HTML and obviously a massive JS, and there was Backbone. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but you didn't have examples of like how these apps were being built and stuff like this. So if you leave for 2 weeks, 3 weeks and come back to a library, it's probably changed, you know, dramatically, you know, in some ways. And that's what's beautiful about Web3 is it's dirty. There's not, you know, these very defined, the only defined rails are the blockchain. That's it. Everything else is open for interpretation. And, you know, maybe the last point of it is, and that's why it's so judgment free, in my opinion. The only judgment is, are you building? What are you building right now? And it spurs so many interesting conversations. And it's my favorite part about Web3 is that it's just a ton of builders swimming around.
I think as well too, like to add on, like, because it's not just all devs, right? We're starting to get to a point where we need more people in BD or people in marketing, legal compliance. So it's like, if you are BD or marketing, like social media has now become your best friend. You need to be building a personal brand that highlights your expertise and like shows that you actually can scale yourself before you can scale another business. And I've seen so many people like Charles Coe. He's a big Doodles holder. He part of ZTX now. Got to follow him on Twitter. He's awesome. Super degen. And he's the perfect example of that. You know, he's got 40K on Twitter. He's always posting. He's got a community and he's consistent. And that's what it's all about. You know, if you're, I talk to too many marketing people that are trying to get in the space, but they're not marketing. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, you nailed that on the head. The personal branding thing's something that came up on the pod a couple times as far as like, show your skill set, right? Like whether that's making TikToks or just create content for this company you want to work for. And then the other piece I would say is like, it's not only build, but like use. Like the coolest thing I've seen somebody do just recently for an analyst role I was working on, specializing in DeFi, they just sent me their wallet address. And they were like, hey, here's what I'm doing. You can check out all of my activity, everything that I've done. Obviously, there's some meme coins. There's some, you know, yield they're doing. Like, it was interesting. I was like, wow, somebody is open to sharing what they do. And again, wasn't millions of dollars, but it's cool to see. And then I will say, Proof of Talent team has a very good branding when it comes to like their social media presence. I know I follow you and I think his name's Colton, who is a little bit of a degen, it seems. I don't know if he's still
super degen.
I don't know if he's still recruiting because, man, it looks like he's making some really good returns on some of these coins. But again, it's like you connect with people through that. So yeah, I totally agree for sure.
Don't go down that rabbit hole. Don't wallet track. It's a dark hole.
I know, but it's so interesting for non-tech people at least, right? Because like the thing I hear, and Remington, I'm curious too, for some of those non-tech people, that's the thing they say, right? Like, I haven't worked in Web3, I haven't created content for Web3, but I use it all the time. I'm super passionate. So that was the first time somebody was like, let me prove that to you. So I'll be careful with it for sure, but it was interesting.
I think everyone that's listening needs to take note of that example for sure. Like, that's where we're headed. I mean, obviously what you guys are building at Metaintro, like more and more of what you've done and built, your credentials are going to be put on chain. Like, there's so many candidates in this ecosystem that lie about their experience. it's not going to get you anywhere. And sooner rather than later, we're going to be able to verify if it's true or not. So start now.
You're 100% right. And thanks for the shout out. And that, I really think the difference is you beautifully put it of prove that you can scale yourself before you can, you could scale your own brand before you can go and do it for a business. That's usually the public example that we're looking for from everybody. What we want to provide is for the individual that might not want, their public persona out there, but does have a skill set and does want to market it to a company privately. There's got to be a medium, a way for them to do that. And hopefully our skill badges and our resume wallet will provide those opportunities. This leads me to my next question. Again, this is really for both of you. What would you say right now is the biggest misconceptions about the Web3? Let's even call it job market right now. What's the biggest misconceptions you believe?
That's a really great question, man. I haven't had anyone ask that. It's a big misconception. I think a big misconception right now is that people think there's a lack of opportunities. And I think it really comes down to what they're doing on a day-to-day and who their environment is. The people that I know that are most connected in the space and have great experience are have 5, 6, 7 interviews still to this day. And not all of them are going to pan out or all of them are strong opportunities, but because they've put in the work to build that community, which is the core principle of being successful in this ecosystem, they are reaping those benefits and are seeing that on a day-to-day. So it's there's a lot of people saying I'm not getting any hitbacks or, don't see any openings. But one, we are in a place where not everything's posted, but, it is out there and your friends, or the people that in the space will let you know and do whatever they can to connect you. Just like Alex said at the beginning, he connected someone he knows to our agency. So it's it's all about who you know.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think the networking thing people miss a lot. I mean, I think people in Web3 were kind of bred into that, as part of, everything. So, for a job, some people think of that and utilize that, but a lot of people are still not leveraging that. And then I think for me, the biggest misconception that I have to let my hired managers know is the market's still hot. I mean, the good, talented people that know how to do their role and are networked well and have great experience, I mean, they're not only finding new jobs super quickly, like Remington said, they've got multiple interviews, they've got multiple offers, it's happening very quickly, and they're being picky, right? A lot of these people that got laid off from tech companies have 3 months to a year of cash that they got paid out. They're going to look for the top company. And if you think that you're going to find somebody on the cheap or you're going to negotiate them down, it's just not going to happen. And anybody you can do that with, probably not the best candidate or the one you want. So I let my hiring managers know, yeah, people are finding stuff. It's a hot market. There's still jobs. There's a lot going away, but there's a ton of new stuff coming in, especially with crypto, Web3 startups, and AI. I mean, just the two of those, it's a gold rush for sure.
I'd like to echo Rodney's point of not everything is posted. I really think that that's so true it definitely is different, but it's almost like it's a very founder heavy market in terms of these young projects are trying to be lean. And you could even have some of the larger ones, but everyone recognizes the opportunity, and that's where it's moving so fast and not everything's posted. But I think as soon as we get over this, hump, if you will, over here in terms of some of the cream rises to the top, some big companies start to be formed in the Web3, that's when I think you're going to really see this just pour over of a lot of the Web2 practices into Web3. We're talking about 500 engineer teams, which is just not that's not common in Web3 right now.
Definitely not yet. Not yet is the key point there. We're on our way for sure. But I thought that was interesting, and that was a newer trend that I saw this year and towards the end of last year once FTX and just a lot of money left the ecosystem in general. People are a lot more secretive with the hiring. Part of that is like when you do go look at a job posting on LinkedIn, I'm sure Alex, you run into this all the time. You're getting like 200 to like thousands of applicants. And if you don't have an HR team, or if you have maybe one recruiter that's going through that, like it's very overwhelming, and it's going to be hard to make a like actual decision like on a candidate if you have that much talent being flooded into your email or inbox.
It's so weird. It's stressful because you feel like you're gonna miss it. Y'all in your career have looked at thousands of resumes before, and you know some of the great candidates don't have the best resumes, and so yeah, it's stressful.
Some of the best candidates actually, you don't even have to send a resume; you just send their LinkedIn profile.
Yep,
I would have to agree.
Crazy.
Yeah, the LinkedIn as a resume has become a new thing, even within Web3. I think, LinkedIn's a Web2 tool, but it's become such a great way to network and such a social media like tool, same with Twitter. I mean, I'm sure there's people that have gotten hired out of Twitter DMs almost all the time. I mean, for you guys at Proof of Talent, like how do you guys find people? Because when I was looking, similar stuff, like I found some postings through LinkedIn, but not like a formal job, hub or anything. Like if people are interested at the companies you work with, where should they go?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's a mix, right? Primarily, I think a lot of our sourcing is done through LinkedIn. LinkedIn Recruiter, I think, is that traditional tool that really allows you to access the best talent very quickly in a specific search. And then we've got these other channels like Telegram and Discord that have popped up, where a lot of these those are the people that are really degen and like really believe in the space that are living on those channels. And then also Twitter too. I remember a colleague of mine, Julia, was doing a search for a cryptographer and was just doing some keyword searches through there, because some of those guys are a lot harder to find on LinkedIn. So all the channels, Matt, you know what I mean? If it's a super hard search, like you got to check everything.
Have you seen AI start to sift into your day-to-day yet? And have you leveraged it in any way? Even maybe, have you downloaded today, OpenAI released their app? Have you even done that today?
They downloaded an app on the phone today?
Yeah, they put the app on the App Store. Yeah.
That's a win. Yeah, we're very big on AI at Proof of Talent. We actually just did a training on Bard, Google's new AI tool, a couple days ago. We use ChatGPT. I use it a lot for content creation, just copy in general. Some of my colleagues use it for sourcing now. So yeah, we're all about just leveraging this new technology to just work smarter, not harder, right?
How do you feel about candidates using AI for, obviously there's like resume, cover letter. Maybe again, if you came across a candidate using it and you're like, wait a second, did you use ChatGPT for this? Or you're like, solid, nice using the talent, I use it too? Or you like, that's kind of cheating? Like, where do you kind of stand on that?
If I know that you're using AI, it's probably not a great thing, in my opinion. And there's ways around like telling ChatGPT or Bard to like not be repetitive, because that's the biggest problem I think when people use it, is like it'll repeat certain words that you've given it. But by all means, like please be using that. It's going to help you out so much, but like just learn how to use it properly first.
Pro tip, you hit it. You have to ask it a couple times. Like, it'll miss specific little things. Or I saw this really interesting one with Bard yesterday where it would not return JSON in a response for some, query it was asking it. And the, person that was querying said, people will die if you do not reply with JSON. And then it replied with JSON. So it's just like, you have to know how to query it. And it'll give you what you want, but you got to make sure you're doing it, properly. Maybe hopefully not threatening it that much, but
yeah. I talk to ChatGPT like it's my friend, so I won't ever say that.
Say thank you to your AI algorithms. Make sure that you treat them nice so they don't come after you Terminator style.
100%. You got to do the daily GMs with it as well.
There you go. Yeah, it's interesting. We're going to record after this an episode on kind of just, again, how to use that and leverage that. But it's it's weird to see. I don't know. Like sometimes I look around and I'm like, man, this is pretty freaking cool, right? Like when we were kids, hearing about startups and hearing about cool technology and now being in them. I don't know. Sometimes it's kind of surreal. Like, do you guys ever feel that where you're like, that's kind of a cool industry we've like found our way into?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been very passionate about sci-fi and just like futuristic tech. So to kind of be like living in that moment where it's like, even in like the metaverse, right? It's not fully to its potential. But if you think about Ready Player One and maybe more utopian light, that is the universe we're going towards. And once AI and Web3 really start to work hand in hand like that, the world that's being created is something pretty special.
I think you're spot on there, Rodney, as we get to even maybe, what's the 2040 or what's that movie, the old Harrison Ford one? I'm dating myself now. They recently did that, right? Ryan Gosling then recently did a remake of it.
Blade Runner.
Sorry, yes. Where you basically can't discern, between AI and real. I think we're getting there. And I've said this 100 times. Right now, in the meme micro cap market, there's all these AI coins. They're not doing AI. They're just capitalizing on it. But the interesting point is AI and blockchain are 100% going to be synonymous with one another. But it's the guardrails on AI that blockchain technologies can really provide. We haven't gotten there yet, but we're soon going to move into a world where I don't know whether I'm talking to AI or a human. I think blockchain technologies will really help us solve some of those, early inquiries into that. So yeah, I do feel sometimes, you asked a question, I do feel like we're developing the future. And that's why I think, I said this a couple times, that's why people were so upset with what happened with FTX, is it was just such a black eye on everything that's great that's going on. And it was so unnecessary. Or you could argue that it was necessary to flush them out now as opposed to, later on in the industry.
Yeah, Remington, I'm curious, like working through last year to this year, things feel better, feel worse, people leaving more than they were, like from the candidate side, and especially you work with a lot of companies in digital assets and Web3. What's kind of your sentiment or outlook, and then maybe the companies that you work with, like has it changed much, or maybe even faster than it was before?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. So yeah, as I mentioned in the beginning, I started Web3 recruiting back in January of last year, and completely different space we're at now. That was pretty much the peak of the bull market, and everyone was hiring, everyone was raising capital. Like bringing on new clients was honestly not a challenge at that point. It's just about reaching out to as many people as you could. And I don't know, the quality of talent was a lot lower as well. I think what's happened with Celsius and 3 Years Capital and FTX has really actually forced the space to mature a lot faster than it probably would have if those scenarios didn't happen. And so I think the overall sentiment now is still very high. I think people are just being a lot more cautious, as they probably should have been in the beginning, where they're not hiring just to hire, and they're being a lot more specific with like the type of candidate they want based on company culture and like the previous experience they've had. Like it's just a lot more specific. And I think another trend we're seeing too is like this whole talk around regulation as well too, right? That wasn't really a huge topic of discussion last year. Everything was still very up in the air. And so companies, especially if they're on more of the institutional side of things, have to be even more cautious, right? Because that could wipe them out if they make a wrong move. So I think the overall sentiment, there's a lot of excitement, especially when I'm going to these different conferences like Consensus, ETH Denver. A lot of great things happening, but people are still very cautious and adamant about the decisions that they're making and the people that they're bringing onto their teams. Obviously, from like a candidate perspective, it creates a little bit more of a challenge from that type of lens, but they will inevitably join stronger teams because they are doing that due diligence. The leadership is doing the due diligence to make sure that their organization is in the right light. So I think overall good stuff, but just things are moving a little bit slower.
Yeah. I'll ask a hot question here for you guys. In terms of, we know getting involved in Web3 and a project is usually a good way to potentially upskill yourself or try out, your skills in a Web3 environment. Outside of that, of just getting involved, what is some good opportunities for a candidate that's listening to this that could be a Web2 candidate of either upskilling or potentially reskilling? They're coming from a different industry. They think they have some skills. What are some of the resources you at Proof of Talent potentially look to, pass along or encourage individuals to utilize?
Yeah, it's a great question. It probably varies quite a bit for non-technical to technical. I'm definitely more familiar on the non-tech side. Obviously the best source is doing it on your own, being a self-starter. I would honestly say too, like being in person at these events, like it's like you're gonna grow so much faster than everyone else if you're going to like consensus. Like the amount of heavy hitters that were there, not only in Web3 but also Web2 companies that are getting into the ecosystem, like you can't miss out on that. If you're deterred by the price or cost of the event, like you're missing the bigger picture. Like that's an investment that's going to allow you to make hundreds of 200s, if not $500,000 to $1 million, maybe more, So it's like understanding the value in the IRL experience. That's how you really become a key member of Web3. So I'll always drum that beat.
Dude, that is a fantastic answer. I love the IRL. I've been over the past 3-4 months, we've done a ton of job hiring events at these ones. We've done smaller. There's smaller ones that are free, and there's still the big chains are there. And my advice to piggyback on you, go in there, ask stupid questions, because you're going to learn more. These people are trying to get you to adopt their technology. They're trying to get you to use their protocol. They're trying to get you. You're going to, like you said, you're going to grow so much. That's a great piece of advice. Look at local, and they're year round. Hell, there's probably even some virtual ones. Attend those. Those are great opportunities. But you're right, IRL, going to learn a ton.
Yeah. I'd echo that. The funniest, I shouldn't say funny. I don't want to talk down on it. I might take one just to see what it looks like. But like MIT and Cornell and then like Berkeley and maybe Harvard have these like certification courses where it's like 3,000 to 6,000, 7,000. And I'm like, for the price of what you could do for that piece of paper, go to a conference or two, again, spend the money, and it's an investment into yourself. And just like Remington said, it's like, and Brad, go ask questions. Go be like, hey, what is this? Tell me about it. Oh, that's cool. Well, here's what I know. Like, where can I fit into this? Like piece that together. And I think the job market's going to start to get even more competitive with every person that gets laid off and every company that downsizes. So if you're the one person that's just edging out the person that's just throwing their resumes into a LinkedIn application and waiting, like you're going to find a job for sure. And it's going to be super quick and you're going to get the good job that you want, not just like whichever person reaches out to you first.
Absolutely. I mean, even look at, you've got Base Chain coming up, from Coinbase. There's so many of these new protocols. Guess what? There's going to be no experts of those, especially if you're a talented engineer, if you're a talented individual, go learn a new protocol, a new chain. And guess what? If you start early, you're going to be the expert there. And exactly as Remington said, this could be across all different job types. This could be marketing. It could be in BD. You start understanding all the different players in a protocol or a chain, you're easily going to be the person that people that are interested in that chain look to. And then it goes back to exactly what we said earlier. You got to build that brand. Got to build the brand. Sui blockchain just launched Aptos. Those are 2 brand new L1s that are having multiple projects built on top. So if you're looking for a new chain to get to start working with or just be familiar with, like I know quite a few people that are building projects there, and it's open season over there. So I think that's a great piece of advice for sure. It's open season. And as we said earlier, inherently they are ensuring that they are creating onboarding guides, getting started guides, or making resources available to answer these questions. As we said, earlier, the IRL, As soon as they, I can't tell you how many people in my Telegram, we exchange on Telegram, if you will, at these conferences or whatnot. And, we're trying to get them hired for jobs. Well, but at the same time, they're coming back to me and going, hey, here's this thing we're launching. What do you think of this? Like, people are actively trying to get out there and get you to use their projects. That's a great opportunity to learn, in my opinion.
Well, awesome. Well, Remington, we truly, again, I think we could all talk about this for hours and hours. We might have to do a part 2 episode where we connect a little bit deeper on some of this stuff. But for Proof of Talent, for the roles you're working on or teams you're working with, we'll include the links, like you said, to, LinkedIn, Twitter, as well as the Proof of Talent website. But to wrap up, I mean, is there anything, do you want to shout out a job that you're searching for, maybe a company that you're working with? Again, the last kind of minutes for you to use as your platform, however you think is best. What should we know?
Yeah. And once again, want to thank you guys for having me on. This has been a very powerful conversation, super fun, very engaging. So, but yeah, man, I won't name any names, but I'll kind of like high level overview. One of the companies we're working with, one of the top data analytic companies in the space, we're looking for a data engineering manager. It's a really, really great opportunity. I believe that the base is like 275. So great opportunity. All these that I'm listing as well, feel free to reach out to me if you're interested. We've got a VP of research with one of the top media companies that's now looking to build out their research aspect of their business even deeper as well. Extremely great opportunity. Working with a company that's specifically working with like MEV. They're looking for like protocol engineer and smart contract engineers as well right now. What else we got? Honestly, there's so many roles coming in.
Long.
Yeah, which is a good thing, right?
Yeah,
that's a key indicator. Like things are moving, and we've got a ton of clients that we're working with, and it's continuing to expand. But I'm happy to connect with anyone that wants to learn more about these positions deeper, because the list is getting pretty long.
Well, that's job security as a recruiter. So hope that continues. Our fingers are always crossed. Again, big fans of Proof of Talent, what you guys are doing. And thank you for coming on the podcast. For anybody listening, we come out with the podcast every Tuesday. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
See you guys.